3 bone-chilling teacher stories that'll haunt your school days forever. In a fluorescent-lit classroom at Riverside High, whispers flutter like crows in the dark. Everyone knows about Mr. Thompson, the English teacher whose icy glare could freeze hell over. But it wasn't just his stern look that kept kids on edge. It was the fact that every year, without fail, one student would go missing. The first time, Billy Jenkins vanished during an autumn storm. The winter break came, but he never returned. On the first day back, the class found a stack of unmarked papers on Mr. Thompson's desk. They were written in shaky letters, but the words chilled them to the bone. Help me. Then there's Mrs. Killian, the history teacher with a penchant for ghost stories. She claimed her classroom was haunted. And boy, did things get weird. One day, a closet door swung open and slammed shut, shaking the room like a quaking earthquake. It's the spirit of a student who never wanted to leave. She smirked, but no one dared chuckle. Kids whispered rumors that she had a secret chat with the ghost every night. When asked about it, Mrs. Killian just smiled, revealing a glint of something unearthly in her eyes. In the chemistry lab, things turned darker when students attempted that one fateful experiment. They called it the vanishing mist. No one thought it could actually work, but that afternoon it did. As clouds of vapor filled the room, a shriek pierced the air. That was the last time anyone saw Jessica Morris. By the time they cleared the mist, she was gone, leaving only her shoes behind, neatly lined up by the table. The principal insisted it was all a prank, but in the back of everyone's minds, possessed by the dread, they wondered, what if? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the bell rang, the students filed out anxious, glancing over their shoulders, feeling like shadows chased them down the hall. Did they hear a faint whisper coming from the basement? Mr. Thompson's office door crackled open, and a shadow slipped through before vanishing. Was it just their imagination? Or were those who went missing still lurking in the walls of Riverside High, watching, waiting? The story wasn't over yet, not by a long shot. The following day at Riverside High, the air was thick with tension. As students shuffled into the classroom, their hearts raced. Whispers turned to frenzied chatter about what happened the day before. Orchard trees cast long shadows outside, branches swaying ominously in the breeze. Did you hear about Jessica? What if she really is gone? Mr. Thompson's gaze drifted over the room, piercing into each soul, leaving a trail of silence in its wake. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed, scrutiny sharp as glass. Let us discuss the consequences of negligence. He began, his voice as cold as the winter winds. The students squirmed. Each felt the weight of his words bore down on them. No one dared challenge him. As he spoke, Amy, a quiet girl in the front row, found herself fixating on a flickering light in the corner that cast eerie shadows dancing along the wall. The whispers of the missing students hung in the air, heavy like storm clouds. She remembered what her friend told her. If you listen closely, the walls can tell you secrets. Amy couldn't help but lean further into the mystery. What if there was more to it than just missing kids? What if the teachers were involved somehow? The bell rang, breaking Amy's trance, but as students left, she hesitated. Something compelled her to stay behind, tugging at a strange sense of curiosity mixed with dread. Maybe she could uncover the truth once alone. She rummaged through the desk, finding the crumpled papers left behind by Billy. Help me echoed in her mind like a chant. She flipped each page, heart pounding faster, feeling like she was crossing an invisible line. Breathing heavily, she let her imagination wander. Could it be that Mr. Thompson had something to do with it? At that very moment, the faintest sound reached her ears. It was a soft humming, melancholic and haunting. The hairs on the back of her neck stood at attention. Who would be humming in such an abandoned room? She stood frozen, listening. Suddenly, the humming stopped, swallowed by an eerie silence. But then, she felt a cool breath on her neck. "Are you looking for something?" asked a chilling voice. Amy jumped, spinning around. It was Mrs. Killian, her smile unsettlingly wide. Yet her eyes betrayed a knowing glint. "This place has many secrets, dear. You must be careful not to disturb them," she said, stepping closer. A flicker of fear cut through Amy like icy water. Before she could muster a response, the door creaked open, and to Amy's horror, she heard a faint whisper ripple through the air. "Help me!" It came from the closet, its door slightly ajar. Mrs. Killian's presence seemed to thicken the atmosphere, as if she was losing her grip on reality. "Stay away from there," Amy gasped, backing up. "What did you do?" Mrs. Killian tilted her head. "What I do is far less frightening than what lies within." And in that moment, the closet door swung open, and shadows spilled out like smoke. A pair of shoes lay just inside, identical to Jessica, as the same neat arrangement as the shadows coiled around her. Amy felt the cold touch of fear wrap around her heart. She knew she had stumbled onto something much darker than missing students. Something ancient and malevolent. The whispers grew louder, overwhelming her senses. What if, she thought frantically, what if those stories weren't just tales? Now facing an unimaginable choice between fleeing and digging deeper, Amy took a shaky step forward. All around, the world seemed to vanish, leaving only the promise of what lay ahead, a truth lurking just below the surface, waiting to be unveiled. What terrible fate awaited her as she approached the darkness? What secrets would the walls finally reveal? Amy took a deep breath, the air heavy with dust and an electric stillness. Shadows writhed and whispered, swirling around the closet, calling to her with words that slipped through her mind like smoke. She could almost see what lay at the threshold, a realm filled with memories and screams wrapped in echoes. "Don't let curiosity lead you to your doom," Mrs. Killian hissed, her eyes gleaming like shards of ice. "Once the door is opened, it cannot be closed." "Why are you acting like this?" Amy forced the words out, trying to anchor herself against the rising tide of fear. "It's just a closet, just a place." But as the shadows deepened, just felt like a dangerous lie. With every pulse of her heart, the closet urged her closer, every beat whispering Jessica's name. If Jessica was here, maybe she could still be saved. Maybe revealing the truth would bring her back. The air grew colder, and time stretched around her. Mrs. Killian's gaze seemed to penetrate her thoughts. "You want to uncover secrets, Amy? Secrets come at a price." The flickering light overhead traveled to the edge of the darkness, creating a strobe of clarity amidst confusion. She caught a glimpse gleaming fabric, the distinct pattern of Jessica's favorite sweater, hanging just beyond her reach. "Jessica!" Amy cried, taking a step forward, fear morphing into desperate resolve. "Stop! You can't just..." Mrs. Killian's voice slipped into a shout, but the shadows hissed louder, joining the whispers until they spiraled around Amy, wrapping her in a cold embrace. Ignoring the warning, she reached for the edge of the closet door. The shadows tightened, pulling her toward the abyss. What awaited her was unfathomable, yet she could almost taste the hope of finding Jessica within that darkness. Then something in the shadows shifted, a figure, unnaturally still and silent, the outline of a girl. With a shock, Amy's breath hitched in her throat. It looked like Jessica, but there was something so very wrong about the way she stood, almost merging with the dark. "Help me!" The familiar voice emerged, raw and desperate, drifting like a wisp of smoke through the chill. Mrs. Killian lunged, grabbing Amy's arm. "You must not touch her. She is lost." The very words sliced through Amy's thoughts. The weight of the school's dark secrets bore down heavily, as if the walls themselves were pushing her away from the truth. But could she leave now? Walk away and let Jessica stay trapped in this sinister limbo? "I have to try," she shouted, breaking free from Mrs. Killian's grip. She hurled herself toward the darkness, determination coursing through her veins. Suddenly, the world fractured. The room spun like a kaleidoscope, and the shadows dimmed. An agonizing scream erupted from somewhere deep within a sound that seemed to echo endlessly in the empty classroom. Amy felt herself being pulled apart, every fiber of her being screaming as the darkness threatened to pull her in fully. She endured the pain, appetite for truth igniting her fear. The last thing she saw before darkness enveloped her was Jessica's eyes wide, pleading, filled with a promise of release. No. Amy jolted awake, staring into the cold, empty void of the classroom, her breath ragged as she registered her surroundings. The shadows receded, leaving a chilling echo behind. But one thing was for certain. She wasn't done searching, and neither were the secrets. Outside, flocks of birds scattered, dark shapes against the overcast sky, unsettled creatures bolting at unseen threats. Whispers resumed in the halls, just as pupils started to spill back in. Yet, as she gazed around, in the depths of her thoughts, she couldn't shake the feeling that Jessica wasn't done calling for her, not yet. With an unsettling resolve, Amy straightened up. The mystery of the school was just beginning to unravel, and she felt threads of fate weaving ever tighter around her. What was hidden beneath the surface of Riverside High? What truths had remained cloaked in silence for too long? And more importantly, what awaited Amy when she dared to open the door to the deeper shadows? The silence of the classroom felt heavy as Amy grappled with the weight of her decision. Her heart pounded steadily, each beat urging her to act, to break free from the fears that coiled around her mind like a serpent tightening its grip. She needed more than just whispers and shadows. She needed action. Mrs. Killian's words echoed in her thoughts, an unsettling reminder of the boundaries she was inching closer to crossing. Secrets come at a price. But what price was too high for friendship? Amy's mind raced through possibilities. She had to find a way to unearth Jessica's fate, to peel back the layers of darkness that enshrouded Riverside High. The lost girl in the closet wasn't just an image. She was a ghost clothed in desperation, a friend still tied to this world. Through Amy's resolve as she stepped into the bustling hallway, faces melted into a blur of excitement and chatter. Friends reunited, laughter ringing bright. But Amy felt like an outsider in this moment, an uninvited guest to the typical high school life. Instead, her focus shifted to the old, forgotten corners of the school. The library, the basement, the attic. They held secrets more powerful and profound than any dismissal of a mere closet. "Did you hear about Jessica?" whispered a girl as she walked past, her tone a mixture of curiosity and dread. Amy paused. Every rumor she heard drove a fresh stake of fear through her heart. The more people whispered, the more tangible the truth felt, an electric current tied to the narrative of darkness. "Hey, Amy!" A voice sliced through her thoughts. It was Jason, his brow knitted in concern. "You good? You looked like you saw a ghost." Ghost, shadows, darkness. The words twisted in Amy's mind, each conjuring fragments of what she had just witnessed. "I'm fine," she lied, swallowing down the remnants of fear. "Just thinking." A flicker of doubt crossed Jason's face, but he nodded slowly, choosing to let it go. That fleeting moment of support, however, only deepened her resolve. She realized it could not rest here. "Listen," she breathed, pulling Jason aside. "I need your help. Something is wrong at this school. I have this weird feeling about Jessica." "What do you mean?" He tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "Jessica, I think she's trying to tell me something. Can we meet at the library later?" She felt the urgency in her tone. "I need someone to help me figure this out." "Sure. But you're freaking me out, Amy." With a reassuring smile that masked her unease, Amy drifted toward the library after school much later than she had initially planned. The air felt thick as she approached, shadows lurking in the corners of every aisle between books, each spine seemingly whispering secrets of the past. The library was dim, already cloaked in twilight as it devoured the day's light. It smelled of old paper and dust, an aroma that somehow soothed and raised the hairs on her arms simultaneously. She entered slowly, the wooden floor creaking beneath her feet, amplifying the stillness around her. As she searched for Jason, her eyes darted to the back of the room. There, just barely illuminated, was a figure hunched over a table. She felt her stomach drop. Jessica? The girl had her hair tied back, and as Amy approached, she caught a glimpse of a familiar sweater. But there was something about the aura of this figure, something unsettlingly off. With hesitant steps, Amy leaned closer. Jessica? She called out, and the figure snapped its head up. Dread washed over Amy as the girl's face was obscured in shadows, those same dark eyes reflecting stark fear. "I'm not her," the girl gasped, her voice trembling. "But I know what happened, and you need to leave now." Before Amy could process the warning, the entire library trembled as if the walls themselves were alive. Books began to tumble off the shelves, the room spinning into chaos. Panic surged through her. This was no longer just about searching for answers. The school was awakening, and it seemed to defend its dark secrets fiercely. "What did you mean?" Amy screamed over the cacophony, clutching the side of the table for stability. But the girl's mouth moved. No sound came out. The darkness loomed larger, shadows twisting and coiling around Amy's feet. And with a deafening crash, the lights flickered out, engulfing everything in complete darkness. Stumbling back, Amy's breath quickened. In that silence, a new whisper reached her ear, low and sinister. "Leave while you still can." But if she turned away now, would she ever find Jessica? It was a race against time, one filled with more questions than answers. What lurked behind that fading voice? What truth lay at the end of this terrifying adventure? Determined yet frightened, Amy knew she couldn't turn back now. She had to confront whatever horror awaited her in that darkness. Because the chase for the truth was only just beginning. Amy's heart raced as her senses strained in the palpable darkness, the whisper echoing around her like a twisted lullaby. The air grew cold, wrapping her in a shroud of dread. She wanted to scream, to call for help, but the oppressive silence suffocated her voice. She took a shaky step backward, her palms clammy against the table's edge. "Jason," she called, desperation creeping into her words. But only silence answered, thick and heavy. The weight of the library pressed in on her, a coded warning echoing from the corners of her mind. A glance to the girl, the one claiming to know what happened, brought tears to Amy's eyes. "What do you know?" she gasped, her voice finding strength amid the fear. "I can't explain here." The girl's face twisted in panic, and for a moment, Amy thought she could see the shapes of tears glistening in her eyes. "We have to go now." The wavering exclamation pierced the darkness around them. Something clattered to the floor, breaking the eerie stillness. Books continued to tumble, as if the library itself was protesting their presence. The shadows danced aggressively, reaching out like clawed fingers intent on dragging her into their depths. "Run," the girl urged, bolting away into the labyrinth of shelves. Without a second thought, Amy sprinted after her. The sound of her heartbeat reverberated in her ears, drowning out everything else. They cut through narrow aisles, once quiet and full of secrets, now sprawling with barely contained chaos. The shadows felt alive, serpentine, ready to strike as they turned a corner. Amy caught a glimpse of a book slamming shut on its own. The force of it was like a gunshot, echoing into the void. What was happening? She couldn't think. "Not now. Why are we running?" Amy shouted, panting. "They know," the girl replied, looking back nervously. "The ones who guard the truth. They don't want us to find out." "Find out?" Amy felt her stomach twist. What truth? Suddenly, blinding light burst through the front windows. It staggered them, illuminated the chaos, and in that moment, the girl grabbed Amy by the wrist. "This way," she urged, pulling Amy toward a door Amy hadn't even noticed before, thin and unassuming, tucked away behind the bookshelf like a secret itself. They burst through, stumbling into darkness again, a cramped staircase spiraling down. "Do you know where this leads?" Amy asked, fear lacing her words. "No," the girl shouted, urgency in her voice. "But we can't go back. We have to reach the end." With each step they descended, the air grew claustrophobic. The stairs seemed to wail underfoot, their creaks merging with haunting whispers. Amy squeezed her eyes shut as visions of Jessica filled her mind. What had they done to her? Who are you? Amy managed through her heavy breathing as they paused at a flat landing. I'm Sarah. The girl's voice was strained, like she was pulling strength from somewhere deep within. I was friends with Jessica. She tried to warn me, but I didn't listen. The confession hung like a noose between them. What do you mean? I saw things. In the basement, things that no one should ever see. Sarah pressed a hand to her chest, as if trying to calm the storm of memories. I thought I could help her. I thought. Her voice broke, and Amy felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Pushing past their fear, they took another step forward. The pathway narrowed, shadows closing in, driven by a force that made the hair on Amy's neck stand on end. What happened here? Amy asked, urgency slicing through her voice. Serious things that lie in the heart of this school, dangerous things. Sarah's eyes glimmered in the dim light. They took Jessica. They'll take you too if you stay too long. Before Amy could process Sarah's words, a deep rumble quaked through the structure, vibrating through her bones. Dust fell from the ceiling, the walls echoing their fear. Run, Sarah whispered urgently, eyes wide with terror. Before they could take another step, a shadow loomed from the end of the hallway, a figure rising dark and twisted. And in one breathless moment, it spoke with a chilling clarity. You shouldn't have come here. Panic gripped Amy as she felt the full weight of danger press upon her. Was this what Jessica wanted her to avoid? Now they were trapped, on the verge of uncovering truths that might cost them everything. With the figure looming closer, a new question flickered in the depths of Amy's mind. Could they escape the darkness surrounding them before it swallowed them whole? The race against time had just begun. But would the truth about Jessica lead them into the light or deeper into the shadows? Sarah tugged on Amy's wrist, yanking her into a misaligned sprint just as the figure stretched its shadow across the walls. The air crackled with a tension that threatened to snap, igniting a pulse of adrenaline that propelled them forward. What is that? Amy gasped, her heart pounding wildly against her ribcage. She felt as if she were trying to outrun her own terror, but Sarah kept pressing onward, pulling her down another dimly lit corridor. The Watchers, Sarah hissed, her voice barely a whisper. They're here to keep the truth buried. Thoughts raced through Amy's mind as they raced downward. Truth? What truth? The question spiraled, as frantic as she felt. They couldn't pause to think. They couldn't afford to look back. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, to find a way out, but answers tugged at her curiosity like an unwanted itch. The basement, Sarah gasped. Jessica, she found something down there. What did she find? The urgency of the situation made Amy's voice sharper. Before Sarah could answer, the overhead lights flickered, casting their shadows into jagged forms that seemed to vibrate with energy. The hallway stretched endlessly, a never-ending tunnel of despair and uncertainty. Amy felt a swell of fear choke her. It was suffocating. Behind you! Sarah shouted suddenly, voice strained as she turned to face the advancing shadow. A chilling, hollow laugh echoed off the walls, and Amy's insides twisted into knots. Panic surged as they pushed forward, their desperate flight merging into an erratic symphony of hope and dread. Keep running, Sarah urged. We need to find the exit. A sudden clamor of rattling doors echoed down the corridor, vibrating with an urgency that felt tangible. The walls felt like they were bending inward, as if the very structure were reacting to their frantic escape. Each second stretched out, filled with unbearable anticipation. As they rounded yet another corner, they stumbled into a dimly lit room. Papers lay strewn across the floor, old photographs yellowed with age. For a moment, Amy's eyes flickered over them, recognizing faces, students, teachers frozen in time. A sense of nostalgia washed over her, but she quickly suppressed it, her focus shifting back to the ominous threat lurking outside in the darkness. They've kept this hidden, Sarah muttered, scanning the room. There must be something here. Suddenly, the door creaked open behind them, sending a chill racing down Amy's spine. The shadow loomed larger, twisting into forms that danced just beyond the threshold. No, Sarah breathed, eyes widening in horror. We need to leave. Just as they turned to flee, a piercing shriek shattered the air, freezing them in place. The shadows melted into one fluid figure, monstrous and alive, its smile wide and predatory. "You've wandered far from safety," it hissed, its voice slithering like smoke. "Have you come to unearth the buried truths?" A sense of dread filled the room. Amy could feel Sarah's grip tighten, yet fear paralyzed her in place. "What do you want from us?" Sarah's words slipped out, shaky with defiance despite the tremor in her voice. The shadow laughed again, a low, rumbling sound that churned Amy's stomach. "Truth comes at a price, we won't pay it," Amy shouted, summoning every ounce of willpower. Suddenly, the darkness quaked, and Amy felt a surge of determination thrust through her. "We'll find Jessica alive." But the figure merely chuckled, the sound echoing like death knells in the gloom. "Finding her is only the beginning, and you're closer than you think." With that, a blinding flash erupted, momentarily illuminating the room. And in that fleeting brightness, for just a heartbeat, Amy glimpsed evidence, something that carved her heart and turned her blood to ice. As darkness reclaimed the space, she felt the walls shake with a menacing resonance, matching the thud of her heart. "What was that?" "I don't know." Sarah's voice was thin, panic etched in her features. The weight of the revelation pressed down on them. Had they stepped too far from safety? In the looming darkness where shadows twisted and truth lay hidden, what horrors would they uncover next? Amy's breath caught as a gasp escaped her lips. "We need to get out of here before it's too late," but the rumble resumed, more insistent, echoing the dreadful promise of what lay just ahead. And as she clutched Sarah's arm, Amy realized they might have already crossed lines far too dangerous. Could they really unearth the truth, or would the shadows claim them first? The echo of their racing hearts drowned out the muffled threats lurking in the shadows. As the darkness pulsated, Amy forced herself to look back at the silhouette inching forward, a horror she could hardly comprehend. It was no longer just a figure. It was alive, watching, waiting. "Where do we go?" Amy's voice trembled, barely more than a whisper. I saw a staircase at the end of the corridor," Sarah replied, her eyes wide with fear. "If we can just make it there." Another bone-chilling laugh ruptured the silence, resonating like a death knell in the musty air. "You think you can escape that easily?" The voice caressed them, oily and smooth, threading fear into their minds. Amy didn't want to wait for an answer. She yanked Sarah's arm, and they tore back into the hallway. Each step echoed like thunder, shaking their resolve with every thunderous pulse. "Just keep moving," Sarah shouted over the growing noise. As they navigated deeper into the maze of shadowy passages, the flickering lights above danced ominously, casting eerie shapes that lurked just beyond their peripheral vision. A feeling of claustrophobia began to squeeze at Amy's chest. "What if we're trapped?" Sarah's words were edged with despair. "We can't think like that. We have to find Jessica," Amy insisted, though the growing weight of uncertainty pressed down painfully upon her. They reached a door at the end of another corridor, old and weather-beaten, the metal handle cold beneath Amy's fingers. She hesitated for only a moment before swinging it open, revealing a staircase spiraling down into impenetrable gloom. "I hate this," Sarah muttered, peering at the stairs. "Yeah, but we don't have another choice," Amy said, her voice resolute even as her insides churned. The shadows beckoned them with sinister whispers, eager to devour them whole. As they descended, time bled away, each step shrouded in murky darkness, the air thicker with dread. The only light flickered from above, illuminating nothing but a hint of dust swirling in the stillness. At the bottom they emerged into a vast underground room. The walls, painted with darkness, seemed to close in, menacing and suffocating. In the center lay a broken table, cluttered with scraps of paper and crumbling books, echoing the loss of knowledge long forgotten. "Look," Sarah exclaimed, kneeling by a corner. "These journals. They might have information about Jessica." As Amy turned to scrutinize the faded words, the world around her shifted. A rush of chilling wind slammed against her. The sensation was suffocating, like a weight pressing ever deeper into her chest. Shadows twisted into grotesque forms along the walls, the laughter returning, more menacing now. Wise children digging where you shouldn't tea. The voice hissed once again, wrapping around them like a snake ready to strike. Don't you want to know how far you've strayed? Amy clutched the tattered pages of the journal tighter. Stop. We're not afraid of you. But fear is the path to knowledge. Every secret has its price. The creature's voice slithered around them, the very air thick with malice. Sarah's eyes darted around the room, frantic. We need to find Jessica. There's something here. I can feel it. Before Amy could respond, a sudden crash reverberated through the room. The journal slipped from her grip, its pages fluttering as if they had a life of their own. A cold surge of panic struck her. The shadows swelled, encroaching, ready to breach the fragile light. What's happening? Sarah screeched, wide-eyed. I don't know. We have to. Amy's voice broke as the shadows merged into a single, massive figure before her. Your search has awakened ancient truths. Are you prepared to face what lies beneath? It crooned, its voice a haunting symphony crafted of nightmares. The air twisted, saturated with despair, as Amy and Sarah stood frozen, realizing they could be on the brink of releasing unspeakable horrors. But questions flooded Amy's mind. What had Jessica genuinely unearthed down here? What truths lay hidden in the memories of this cursed place? And above all, would they ever find her, or would they themselves become part of the stories that haunted these halls? The very shadows seemed to hold their breath, waiting. The massive figure loomed larger than life, its shadow swallowing the scant light that dragged itself down the staircase. And in human shape, it gnashed teeth that glinted like shards of glass. Panic clawed at Amy's throat, a wild animal desperate to break free. Run! She screamed, her voice slicing through the heavy atmosphere. She took a step back, her instincts screaming at her to flee, but the cold fingers of the fear monster reached out, wrapping around her heart, squeezing tighter with every breath. Sarah didn't need to be told twice. She bolted forward, dragging Amy behind her. As if they were two leaves caught in a storm, desperation fueled their limbs as they darted toward the far wall, their minds racing. What do we do? Sarah gasped, trying to catch her breath, her eyes reflecting terror mixed with determination. Look for another way out, Amy shouted, scanning the room. She spotted a flicker of light through a narrow crack in the wall at the far end. A glimmer of hope sparked inside her. Over there. She pointed, her heart hammering louder than the chaos vibrating around them. The figure let out a hollow laugh that echoed off the stone walls, resonating deep within them. You cannot run from what seeks you. You may hide, but this place it knows. The words dripped with malice, each syllable sinking in like nails driving into their resolve. All around them, the clutter on the table spilled out onto the floor, pooling like ink spreading in water, reaching out to entangle them in its grasp. Torn pages and brittle books began to rise, swirling like a tempest, creating a vortex of despair. Here, Sarah shouted, wrenching a broken drawer from the wall. She began emptying it frantically, scattering the objects within. We can use this. We have to block it somehow. Amy's heart pounded in her ears as she joined her, grabbing whatever they could find: crumpled papers, jagged pieces of wood, anything that could slow down the nightmare approaching. The cloaked figure surged closer, its features more defined now, twisted into a grotesque mimicry of humanity. Shadows leaped across its form, dancing with a life of their own, whispering the secrets of the damned. Jessica! Amy screamed, the name a desperate prayer. Why does she matter? The creature hissed, its voice low and seductive. She is already one with the darkness. She has given in where you are still resisting. Save yourselves, children, and join her. No. Amy shouted, shaking her head fiercely. We will save her. With one last heave, they managed to shove the drawer against the door, the loud scrape against the stone echoing through the chamber just as the air shifted. The creature paused, sensing the barrier. Foolish mortals, it whispered, a snarl creeping into its tone. All the world is a prison, and you already wear the shackles. Then, with an unsettling calm, it raised an arm, and thick shadows rolled towards them like a flood. Pull it. Amy screamed. They pushed the drawer hard as the darkness writhed and slithered, wrapping around their legs like roots holding them down. I can't hold it. Sarah's voice cracked as the shadows clawed at her ankles, dragging her toward the table. Terrified screams filled the room as both girls strained against the tide, digging their nails into splintered wood, absolutely refusing to let the darkness consume them. The figure loomed closer, its face inches from them, a twisted smile curling upon ghostly lips. You can fight all you want, but you'll only find one truth, the truth of despair. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from the journals that still lay strewn across the ancient floor, igniting the air with a violent glow. It washed over them, illuminating the room in stark clarity, and, for a fleeting moment, they could see things truthfully. Jessica's image darting through the haze within the depths of shadows, her cries echoing back to them, and in that moment, everything felt possible. We have to go, Amy shouted, reclaiming Sarah's hand as they surged toward the crack in the wall. They could hear the echoing laughter behind them, mocking their every step, yet driving them forward with an urgency they had never felt. But just as they reached the opening, a powerful force yanked them backwards, and the drawer toppled, splintering against the stone ground. The light flickered and dimmed, and for one frightful second, they found themselves face to face with darkness's true form. Fate will not be denied, the shadow hissed, its deep, menacing voice amplifying in the dim light. You cannot run from what was destined for you. In that split moment, as the walls trembled, Amy pulled Sarah close, her lips forming the word that held their only hope, Jessica, and then everything went black. What awaited them next danced between survival and the unimaginable secrets that sought to drag them beneath. A whisper echoed in the void. Are you prepared to uncover what was buried? The coldness swallowed them whole, dragging them into a pitch-black abyss. Amy felt like she was caught in a whirlpool, spiraling downwards, her body weightless, her mind screaming in desperation. She reached for Sarah, the instinct for connection anchoring her in the unreal void. Where are we? Sarah's voice pierced through the darkness, trembling with fear and confusion. I don't know. Just hold on, Amy shouted. The ground beneath them flickered into existence, like a film reel catching the light. Suddenly, they tumbled onto a rough, uneven surface. Gasping, they struggled to their feet, wide eyes scanning their new surroundings. The air felt thick, teeming with unknown energy, and the faint echo of their own breaths was swallowed by ominous silence. The chamber was old, crumbling stone walls lined with unfamiliar carvings, depicting nightmarish scenes that made their skins crawl. Amy took a tentative step forward, her heart trembling in rhythm with each echoing heartbeat. Is that really Jessica? She whispered, pointing shakily at a figure chained to the wall and the dim light creeping from cracks above. A girl's silhouette was barely visible, her frail form barely holding against the chains that bound her. Jessica's face was obscured, but the dread radiating from her presence was palpable. Help me. A whisper brushed against the weight of their fears. Please, Jessica. Sarah dashed to her, but the chains seemed to pull tighter, as if the very darkness held their friend in a suffocating embrace. No, wait, Amy yelled, panic bubbling up as she desperately grabbed Sarah by the arm. Could be a trap. Are you kidding me? We can't just leave her. Sarah pulled away, determination burning bright in her wide eyes. The walls seemed to vibrate, the pictures twisting as if they were alive. Images of despair and madness played before them, threatening to overwhelm their senses. Bright flashes illuminated Jessica's strained expression, twisting between agony and fear. That's not her, not anymore, Amy muttered, the depths of her soul aching with dread. Look at the chains, they are feeding off her pain. As if in response, the room shuddered, the carvings on the walls coming to life, crawling towards them, pulling the air tighter and tighter. Run! Amy screamed, grabbing Sarah again, forcing her to move in the opposite direction. But the room warped, shifting focus to block their path, and they were thrust deeper into the struggle between hope and despair. The laughter returned, echoing around them, a cruel symphony of madness. Join her, it will all be over. No, Sarah shouted back defiantly. We won't give in. With every step, The weight of hopelessness pressed down on them, but their hearts pulsed with resistance. They spotted another doorway in the distance, light streaming through the edges, tantalizing and bright. Let us get to that light. They sprinted towards it, but shadows swirled beneath their feet, snatching at their ankles like a pack of ravenous wolves. I can't hold them off, Amy grunted, struggling against the dark tendrils that wrapped around her legs like iron bands. Just keep moving, Sarah yelled as she yanked her friend forward, gritting her teeth against the pain of the shadows pulling at her. The door loomed closer, a fragile beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. But just as they reached for the handle, a scream ripped through the air. Jessica! They turned, eyes wide with shock as the chains shattered, flinging their friend towards them, her eyes glowing with a haunting light. Leave me behind! Jessica's voice carried an eeriness that chilled them to the bone. There's no escape. The decision hung heavy in the air, thick with desperation and dread. Should they try to save her or flee? Don't listen to her, Amy shouted, heart racing. We can break this curse together. We won't leave you. The darkness swelled in response, its form shifting and morphing, growing agitated as if sensing their resolve. Fate isn't done with you yet, it hissed. What choice would they make? As the shadows closed in, heartbeats racing in the claustrophobic space, the line between friendship and survival blurred, pointing towards an unimaginable fate. Hold my hand, Sarah shouted through the chaos, desperation etched in every line on her face. We can do this together. Will they stay united against the shadows, or will despair twist their choices forever? The fate of their friendship and their lives hung in the balance as darkness beckoned. The shadows closed in around them, and with a smirk, the monster whispered, "Let us see how deep your loyalty runs." Amy squeezed Sarah's hand tightly, her heart thundering as darkness coiled around them. We can face this together. We can save Jessica. The shadows writhed, swirling like a cyclone. Fear licked at the edges of her mind, but she pushed forward, determined to break the grip of despair. Listen to me, Jessica, she shouted, her voice breaking through the cacophony. We're not leaving you. We can fight this. Jessica's eyes flickered, a distant light shining behind them, an echo of the girl they once knew. You don't understand, she gasped, a tremor running through her. It's too late for me. It's consumed me. No, Sarah screamed, pulling at the chains. You can fight it. We'll find a way. But the shadows snarled, crowding closer, the air thick with malice. Despair is inviting, children. You will join her soon enough. Let her go, and you shall have peace. No. The defiance surged in Amy like a flame, lighting her resolve. We're stronger together. With Sarah beside her, they began to chant, voices intertwined. Jessica, come back to us. Fight the darkness. You're not alone. As their words echoed, the shadows hesitated, recoiling slightly. The light in Jessica's eyes flickered like a candle fighting the wind. You can't hold on. Yes, you can. We are with you, Amy cried, adrenaline pouring through her. Together, we are stronger than this darkness. Sarah tightened her grip on Amy's hand, nodding fiercely. You are more than just a victim of despair. You are our friend. We refuse to lose you. A crack of light intensified, illuminating the room in a brightness that pushed back the shadows. It surged around them, dazzling and bold, challenging the creeping darkness that wanted to swallow them whole. Let go of her chains, Amy shouted, feeling the power of their friendship ignite her courage. We reject your hold. Jessica, we believe in you. For a moment, the darkness hesitated. The chains around Jessica's wrists trembled, glimmering under the radiant light. Fight, Jessica. You are not alone. The words rang like victory bells. The shadows shrieked, scrambling to regain control. But as the light bloomed brighter, cracking open the ominous veil, Jessica's chains crumbled like brittle glass. Help me, Jessica shouted, her voice rising, filled with desperation and longing. In a united surge, Amy and Sarah launched toward Jessica. With one powerful pull, they reached her, yanking her from the clutch of darkness. You're free. Amy cried, heart flooding with a mixture of relief and joy. A piercing scream erupted from the shadows, a manifestation of rage and loss. You think you can escape? The truth will find you. Warm light surrounded them. For an instant, everything felt still, serene. The shadows recoiled, chaos fading. Then they bolted toward the flickering door, the way out bathed in ethereal glow. They raced across the trembling ground, their breaths mingling, urgency propelling them forward. Just a little more, Sarah urged, glancing back. The darkness loomed large, chaos attempting to pull them apart. They wouldn't let that happen. Finally, they reached the door. With one united push, they flung it open, tumbling through together. The warmth of daylight washed over them, erasing the chill of shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. They landed on the grass outside Riverside High, breathing in the fresh air, lungs expanding as though a weight had lifted. Is it over? Jessica gasped, staring back at the darkened door, shivering from the aftershock. We did it, Sarah shouted, tears of relief spilling down her cheeks. The shadows faded, retreating back to darkness. The school now merely an ordinary building burdened with weighty secrets. And as they stood together, a bond unbreakable forged through a shared struggle, they turned to face what lay ahead. A new day dawned, filled with promise. Let us make our own stories now, Amy suggested, her voice bright, filled with hope. No more shadows, just us. The three girls clasped hands, their connection stronger than any shadow that dared chase them. They defaced nightmares together, and while there were still stories to be unraveled in the halls of Riverside High, they stood united, ready to face anything, strong and shining. Before they left, Amy took one last glance at the school. We'll never forget, but we're free now, and our past will only strengthen our future. As they walked away, laughter spilled from their lips, a melody of resilience, carrying them toward new adventures under a brightening sky. Now, I need you to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others find these thrilling tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters. Show what it means to be part of this amazing community.